Greetings, ladies and gentlemen of the internet. This is Rock and Roll Spot coming at you. Sorry for the lack of videos over the last week and a half. Between being sick last week and some technical difficulties this past Wednesday, videos have had to be delayed. Because of that, I will be covering the TV, what would have been the weekly TV roundups for the last 2 weeks today. Again, this will not be a normal thing. Anyway, starting off with the episode Constantine from 2 weeks ago, which was the mid-season premiere, opens with where the mid-season finale left off. John being attacked by a creature in the sewer, and then he allows the demon Pazuzu to possess him, so to repel said demon, which elicits him a visit from Manny, who basically turns his back on John. Zed is still Crusade's prisoner, but manages to escape, killing her captor in the process, and then she makes her way, presumably, back to the cabin. Chaz pulls John out of the sewer, and John informs Chaz about Pazuzu's possession of him, insisting he has time before Pazuzu takes him over completely. This proves to be not entirely true, as Pazuzu takes over, knocks out Chaz before running off. Chaz comes to and calls Zed, filling her in. Zed then agrees to join them in Mexico. When John, however, comes to amidst the dead bodies of some Mexican gang members, with police converging on him and subsequently arresting him. While in jail, John befriends a fellow prisoner who knows how things work and asks for a chapel. It should also be noted that after his arrest, he has a meeting with a member of the with someone from the British consulate. After Zed arrives in Mexico, her and Chaz tell Anna Maria about Manny, and Manny will enlist her aid in saving John. The British consulate agent who spoke to John after his arrest is revealed to be working with another demon who seems to eat him, take his place. At the prison, John is ambushed by other members of the gang he killed earlier, and Pazuzu takes control and kills the gang members. After Anna Maria finds John, Zed and Chaz enter the prison to help him. Zed going in under the pretense of being a hooker for a conjugal visit. Chaz getting arrested and punching a guard. The demon from the consulate arrives at the prison as Zed, Chaz, and Anna Maria begin the exorcism of Pazuzu from John. As they are about to begin the rite, the demon arrives and identifies himself as the serpent, as in the Garden of Eden. Anna Maria kills the serpent and relocates John and the temporarily killed Chaz to the morgue. Upon waking, John manages to get a very large amount of heroin and ODs, putting him down long enough for them to get John back to the cabin. The basic idea being that they're fairly certain they can't do the exorcism at the jail, but there's a possibility that the cabin's wards will help with it. Upon arriving at the cabin, John tells Anna Maria that she must run the exorcism, which gets tricky quickly, with Pazuzu insulting each of John's present friends and flinging items about the cabin telekinetically. The exorcism succeeds after Zed convinces Anna Maria to forgive herself for introducing John to magic. Then she, of course, returns to the convent. Good episode. I have to admit, it's always amusing to hear a reference to Pazuzu. For those unaware, Pazuzu is also the demon utilized in the Exorcist films. Anyway, moving on to last week's episode of Gotham. Opens with Arkham's recent escapees walking through Gotham, at my Johnny Cash plays in the background. Upon arriving at their destination, an electronics shop, Gruber, the older and smarter of the two, picks up electrical gear he had stowed there to use against Gotham. Meanwhile, Commissioner Loeb arrives at the GCPD, and Gordon convinces commissioner to reinstate him. However, temporarily. Gordon and Bullock are given 24 hours to catch Gruber, or they will both end up as Arkham guards. Ed finds the true identity of Gruber and shares it with Gordon and Bullock. Shortly thereafter, the stolen Arkham transfer van is found, as is the electronics shop Gruber went to. Fish brings in Liza, her weapon against Falcone, and tells her she's making her move against Falcone. Dr. Tompkins brings Gordon a doll that Gruber had a patient make for him, which bears a striking resemblance to one Salvatore Maroni. Maroni's restaurant is then attacked as Penguin tries to leave to see Falcone. Gordon convinces Maroni to enter protective custody. However, Penguin comes to near Maroni and lets slip that he has urgent business with Carmine Falcone. Falcone accepts Fish's terms, leave Gotham and never return. Gruber, seemingly accepts her terms. Gruber attacks the GCPD to get to Maroni, but is stopped and arrested by Gordon, who is fully reinstated. Penguin finally manages to see Falcone and tells him that Liza was brought in by Fish from the get-go. Penguin confronts Fish and Liza with what Penguin told him. He then strangles Liza while Zaz and the rest of Falcone's muscle make Fish watch. Falcone then reveals to Fish that Penguin still works for him, and pretty much says that Liza got off easy. Dr. Tompkins comes to see Gordon at the station. The two kiss. However, the kiss is interrupted by news of a shootout at Fish's place. And that was the end of that episode. Moving on then to last week's Flash. Opens with Barry training against. First off, some comments about last week's Gotham. Gruber is briefly referred to as the Electrocutioner. There's actually an existing DC villain called the Electrocutioner who basically uses an electrical rig. He's a hired muscle villain, honestly, and he's kind of forgettable. Personally, however, the concept of the character is one that I would love to see on Arrow and or Flash, provided that it's at least open and the character is at least open enough for both Arrow and Flash to use, as well as Gotham. Anyways, moving on to Flash. Episode opens with Barry training against an armed drone, which he destroys with its own missile. Meanwhile, Len Snart and his friend Nick Rory try to draw out Barry and fail. And initially, Barry is more than willing to give Snart the fight that he wants, but changes his mind after talking with Professor Wells. Cisco and Professor Wells unveil a new riot shield for the police force, which is designed to prevent freezing. Barry and Caitlin look into what's become of Ronnie. And, in fact, because of Barry speed reading the 800-page document, they do get a little bit of information, and including a lead on who to talk to. Len and Mick steal a painting from a rich couple, the Rathaways. Their name is important, by the way. The police show up and are caught by surprise and initially think they're just go after cold. Then they are caught rather surprised by the arrival of Mick as well. The rogue duo destroy the painting and plan to go after the Star Labs crew. And in fact, it should be noted that Mick puts 3 cops in the burn unit. Caitlin talks to a student who worked on a project known as Firestorm, Jason Rush, again, also an important name, and learns more about the project. Afterwards, however, Len and Mick kidnap Caitlin. Cisco manages to find a potential weakness in Len and Mick's guns, that they can cancel each other out if they cross streams. Yes, the Ghostbusters comment references caught by both Barry and Cisco. Len calls out Barry, telling him where to meet him and Mick to rescue Caitlin. While Barry fights Len and Mick, Joe and Cisco save Caitlin. After a prolonged battle, Barry manages to get Len and Mick's guns to cross streams, and it turns out, yes, they do cancel each other out, and Eddie arrests them. Barry and Iris talk things over just before Iris moves in with Eddie. Afterward, Barry opts to move back in with Joe. And finally, the little equivalent of a post-credits scene that every episode seems to have. While en route to Iron Heights, Len and Mick are broken out by Len's sister, as per Len's plan. A few things. First off, I mentioned the Rathaways. It's an important name. A character from the Flash comics, one of the Rogues, Pied Piper, in fact, is their son. And in fact, it's in this most recent episode, which I'll be looking into in a little bit. Also, Jason Rush. Jason Rush was part of the second Firestorm Matrix in the comics. So, second and then the most recent one as well, which in fact consisted of Rush and Ronnie Raymond. So it could potentially be headed that direction, which would be quite cool. And finally, Len's sister. Len's sister, Lisa Snart, has a long-standing history with the Flash, as well as the Rogue Golden Glider. Her casting was announced a few weeks ago, and though it was unclear as to whether or not she would be donning a costume. Looks of it, though, she will be. It's also it comes up that, or it seems to be that during her downtime, Len and Mick created copies of their weapons. As Mick mentions after the first run-in with the cops that he's glad that Len had him learn every single inch of the flame gun. Anywho, moving on to last week's Sleepy Hollow. Opens with a restoration of a painting, which starts and just as quickly stops bleeding. Meanwhile, Ichabod and Katrina tend to get together at the local historical society where Katrina feels a dark presence. At the precinct, Captain Washington shows up and is quickly taken into custody. Back at the historical society, the art restorer, a friend of Ichabod's, is found dead and strung up, much like the tarot card, the Hanged Man. Katrina and Ichabod note a similarity in the killing to a series of murders from the 18th century. Abby talks to Washington and catches him up on what's happened, though he has no idea how it is that he's not dead. Katrina and Ichabod investigate the murder scene, realizing that the artist whose self-portrait was being restored is the culprit, and that there will be more killings. Abby tells Jenny and both Jenny and Washington's wife about his return. Katrina manages to track the artist while Jenny retrieves bullets from the corpse of a creature. At the Historical Society, the artist claims another victim, while Katrina discovers the painting's dark history. The Cranes enter the painting in an effort to stop the killer, and after they return, the killer follows, however, and is killed by Abby, whom she shoots the painting, using, I might add, the bullets that Jenny retrieved for her. In all honesty, it was more of a, I need something, and Jenny happened to know where Holly left the body with said bullets. Finally, Sheriff Reyes tells Abby that the DA has evidence that will vindicate Washington, while dressing her down for speaking to him in the first place, as she was ordered not to do so. Let's see. Interesting episode. Dealt with the Roosevelts, which was quite cool. Also, I do like seeing episodes where Katrina and or Ichabod have to integrate into modern society, basically. Alright, last week's Scorpion. First off, opens with the missiles at a missile silo on Iceland activating seemingly on their own. At the office, Drew gives Paige a brochure for a gifted school for Ralph. The team is called in to find the hacker responsible for attempting to activate the Iceland silo. The hacker is thought to be related to the theft of the football during a theft of the football that occurred during the Clinton administration. First off, for those unaware of what the football is a briefcase that contains nuclear launch codes and can launch a one-time, or can potentially launch a nuclear strike. It's usually handcuffed to the wrist of one of the Secret Service men flanking with the president. The team goes to talk with an injured former Secret Service agent, in fact, the one who was holding the football at the time, and end up having to jumpstart his mind, as well for demonstration's sake, Agent Gallows. The thief of the football is found, another of the agents present during the assassination attempt. More work on the agent's memory leads the team to the hacker. The football is recovered and/or destroyed. Walter gives Paige some facts about Portland, Maine, the location of the gifted school, and eventually tells her that he cares about her and Ralph. It was more disaster of the week, and those episodes of Scorpion always get a little humdrum, really. Anyways, moving on to Constantine from a little over a week ago. Opens with a robed man casting a spell over a chimney, affecting a young girl inside. At the cabin, John and Zed discuss the crusade when she notices the scrying mat bleeding again, this time in New York, where Chaz is already heading to see his daughter. Flashback to 2 years earlier, John and Chaz are at a bar. John leaves shortly before the band takes stage. However, the band's performance leads to a fire in the bar, which kills a goodly number of people. John Pax, the young girl from the intro, is revealed to be Chaz's daughter, and she's in a coma, apparently. Turns out her soul has been taken. John, Zed, and Chaz go to speak to a medium friend of John's. The medium manages to reach Chaz's daughter, though the mage responsible for taking her soul hijacks the seance and burns the medium to a crisp. Zed then utilizes her abilities to track down the mage. John, Zed, and Chaz find the mage responsible, one Felix Faust, another important character in these kinds of things. Faust offers John a deal for Chaz's daughter. As there's a demon troubling Faust, John has to stop the demon and return him to hell. And then Chaz's daughter's soul will be freed. John sends Chaz away so as to prevent Chaz from endangering the task, as well as quite possibly his daughter at hand. Then John and Zed go after the demon. Zed volunteers to be bait. The flashbacks end up telling the story of how Chaz became as hard to kill as he is, and that there is a limited number of times Chaz can come back. And basically what it is that Chaz died in the fire, as did, and however he got to come back along with the additional 47 or no 47 the souls of the other 47 dead, meaning quite simply that he can die. He has a limited number of deaths to him. Back at Faust, Chaz knocks John out and offers the souls of those who died in the bar to Faust, and promptly double crosses the mage and manages to get his daughter's soul back. In the end, Chaz then visits with his daughter and starts telling her about the people who died in the bar fire, which he apparently has a scrapbook with information about them. Alright, moving on to the mid-season premiere of Arrow. Opens with a chase between criminals and the SCPD. Roy and Diggle intervene, catching one of the two criminals involved, though the other gets away. Ray continues to work on his armor. Felicity tries to talk him out of becoming the city's new protector. One of the League members finds Ollie on a rock ledge and does take the body. The criminal who escaped Roy and Diggle is confronted by his boss, Danny Brickwell, and is then killed by Brick. Malcolm and Thea train, with Malcolm offering to have some of his old associates look into where Ollie is. Malcolm finds Raish's sword and brings it to the Arrow Cave, telling Felicity, Roy, and Diggle that he orchestrated the entire thing to get rid of the death order Raish placed upon him. Felicity confirms that the blood on the sword is Ollie's, and that Ollie is dead. Diggle looks for and eventually finds a pattern of the numbers on a burnt piece of paper he and Roy recovered when they found the dead guy's body, indicating that Brick is trying to damage cases against local crooks, small-time criminals. While trying to stop Brick, Diggle ends up taking Brick on, and almost losing until Felicity lets Brick and his goons escape. Back at the Arrow Cave, Felicity quits. Definitively. The League of Assassins member who recovered Ollie's body is revealed to be his former handler from Hong Kong, who asks an unseen party for help. Laurel attacks him with the thugs whose cases have been thrown out because of Brick, as under the guise of a new canary. The unseen party is revealed to be Tatsu, and she somehow brought Ollie back to life. The episode's flashbacks have Ollie and his handler going after half of a bioweapon and encountering Triad forces. Ollie slips a GPS transmitter into the pocket of one whom he lets escape so that he and his handler can recover the kidnapped Tatsu. Alright, moving on to this most recent week's episode of Flash. Opens with Barry and the cops chasing the Royal Flush Gang through Central City before their eventual arrest. Iris finds out that she's been offered a job as the Central City Picture News on account of her blog. Professor Wells gets a strange phone call at her arriving home before his skylight is destroyed. He avoids the falling glass by using speed. Professor Wells tells Barry and Joe who's responsible, Harley Rathaway. Remember, as mentioned, the Rathaways having been mentioned or having shown up in the previous week's episode. A former Star Labs employee and Wells' former protege. Iris finds out that the Central City Picture News is only interested in her for 4 pieces on the Flash, thinking she has some kind of link to him, which she unknowingly does, but like I said, she doesn't know that. Barry takes on Rathaway. He claims to know Wells' secret. After a brief fight, Barry brings Rathaway into Star Labs. Wells informs Cisco, Caitlin, and Barry that Rathaway theorized the particle accelerator could explode, which leaves pretty everyone a bit unhappy with Wells. While looking at Rathaway's sonic rig, Cisco realizes that Rathaway wanted to get caught. He breaks out of his cell and steals Barry's molecular scans from Star Labs computers before escaping. Professor Wells has missed responsibility to the city for the explosion of the particle accelerator, and he uses Oliver Queen's former tagline, a version thereof, saying, "I have failed the city." I'm sure that were Ollie to watch the press conference, he would probably say, "Damn it, he used my line." Rathaway goes after a dam to draw Barry out. Wells utilizes the satellite radios nearby to destroy Rathaway's weapons after Rathaway takes down Barry. At Star Labs, Rathaway tells Cisco he knows Ronnie, Caitlin's now powered fiancé, is alive, as well as what has happened to him. Wells uses the tachyon device to tap into the Speed Force, very important thing, and discovers that his speed isn't stabilizing. He also mentions that however, he says that's not important as the real endgame is almost here. Now, the Speed Force. The Speed Force is extremely, extremely important. In DC Comics, that's where speedsters get their power, basically. And in fact, it has also allowed other things to happen, such as Barry's death, and Barry's death and resurrection. Hell, the resurrection of pretty much every speedster that's died and come back has been resurrected through the Speed Force. Also, it can potentially lead to time travel. Also, Harley Rathaway, Pied Piper. Yes, the son of the two of the Rathaways from the mid-season premiere. Alright, moving on to this past week's episode of Gotham. Opens with Fish being brought in to where Falcone intends to have her tortured. Simply put. Gordon and Bullock get called in on a homicide by Detective Flass of narcotics. A janitor says he saw the killer and offers to speak with a sketch artist so that a sketch can be made and distributed so that the killer can be found. While waiting to see said sketch artist, however, the janitor is killed, presumably by the same killer. Butch, Fish's right hand man, gets loose and manages to save Fish. Bruce runs into Ivy while looking for Selina and has Ivy tell Selina he's looking for her. Gordon finds the cop who let the killer kill the janitor and gets pulled off the case as it gets sent to IA, to Internal Affairs. Butch and Fish plan to get back at Penguin, who has inherited Fish's club. Bullock warns Gordon about Flass, causing them to go after a stash house, which is conveniently being searched by narcotics. Gordon goes to Penguin for information on Flass and his goons. And Penguin has one of his men look into it. Zaz discovers the escape of Fish and Butch while the duo come to visit the Penguin. However, their reunion is cut short by the arrival of Zaz. Butch basically sacrifices himself so that Fish can escape. Gordon is delivered the murder weapon, an ice pick, and a confession by one of Penguin's men, which leads to Flass being arrested. It's not so much a confession as much as just the cop from earlier ratting out Flass completely. Selina tells Bruce she lied and about seeing the face of his parents' killer, and to leave her alone, which actually kind of breaks Bruce's heart. Bullock helps Fish get out of Gotham and she asks him to find and help Butch. Gordon discovers the links to which Penguin's man went for the ratting out, basically, and is not happy in the slightest. Alright, moving on to this past week's episode of Agent Carter. Opens with a deal between Jarvis and some smugglers going a bit south. Money issues. Before revealing the package in question to be none other than Howard Stark. Carter ends up hiding Stark in her residence while she does some errands for him. Director of the SSR leaves for Germany to get info on the dead Russians, as the commanding German officer from the battle they were supposedly killed in is scheduled to be killed at Nuremberg soon. Stark finds that all of his inventions are off the black market, though he needs Carter to steal one back so it doesn't switch off the New York power grid. In Germany, the director learns that the battle the Russians were killed in was not actually a battle, but rather the Nazis stumbling upon a trove of dead bodies. Brutally dead bodies. Carter opens the device. Carter gets the device back, and it turns out to not actually be something that would switch off the power grid, but rather a vial filled with Captain America's blood. She is not happy about that in the slightest. The employer of the smugglers from earlier comes after Carter and is waylaid by her neighbor, Dottie, who appears to have some interesting training. In fact, it has been confirmed that she is if I understand correctly, has been confirmed she is part of the Black Widow program that produced Natasha Romanoff. And now, past week's episode of Sleepy Hollow opens with Abby, Ichabod, Jenny, and Holly at a bar singing karaoke when Holly is called to a meeting with an old friend. In fact, turns out to be the woman who raised him after his parents were killed. A break-in at the archives, however, leads the group to discover that Holly, trying to get away from getting away, escaping, having taken something. His former guardian is there as well. She is briefly stopped by an iron-tipped crossbow bolt and open flame before she manages to escape as well. Irving is exonerated. The evidence leading to his exoneration is not shown, but it's just that he is exonerated. Ichabod discovers that Holly stole blueprints for the Knox estate, as in Fort Knox. Not the blueprints for the actual fort, but rather the person the fort is named for, which is said to have a large source of occult artifacts, one of which could help, well, Holly's former legal guardian, who has since become a Vitala. Ichabod, Abby, and Jenny make their way into a party at the Knox estate. Jenny catches up with the Vitala, and Holly makes a deal. Or Abby catches up with the Vitala, and Holly makes a deal to save Abby and Ichabod, and agrees to stay with her. Abby and Ichabod get trapped in the vault, nearly get killed while trying to escape. Once reunited, Abby, Ichabod, and Jenny track down Holly and manage to save him from being turned into a Vitala as well. The Vitala escapes, however, and Holly basically decides he's leaving town to track her down. Katrina gives Irving a spiritual examination to make sure he's not under Henry's thrall, which he apparently isn't, though he may now be linked to a different force. What that force is unknown. Anywho, that's it for the bi-weekly, or for the TV roundup. Wednesday we'll be back with, I think we'll be back to the normal schedule. And next Saturday we'll have a regular Saturday video. Anywho, all that being said, feel free to like, share, and subscribe. Follow me on social media. Links to both of which are down below. And live long and rock hard.